Hi. This week, I'm calling it, It's All in the Seeing. And it flowed on beautifully from last week's esteem, actually, and then progressed, so I'm interested to see what next week brings. So, esteem is pretty important stuff. And in many ways, when esteem is there, it's humbling in the sense that it becomes apparent to those who don't have it. When you have it, you can see those that don't have it and how that plays out. But if you haven't got that way of seeing, you struggle for esteem. And, you know, people aren't listening, or why don't they see it this way? And we can actually end up in a place where we're locked into this worldly process of believing we are the avatar. So what showed up was the excellence of the way the behaviour has been all along, born with it. And this weekend it really revealed the vastness that we bring into this world when we come here in the hope of discovering it and unwrapping it. So with this esteem, I know things show up back the front when this is videoed, you'll just have to run with it. So this esteem, when the esteem is down here, we just feel like a pawn in somebody else's game, that they never listen, they never hear, they never whatever that is, and it's suffering. So when it's all in the seeing, when you realize that and how you see it is your world. And I would say it's your board, it's your game. When you look from that perspective, it doesn't matter what mother, father, sibling, boss, regulations, unlawful, lawful, the gamut of what can play out. Because when you see it from above, when you see it from the self, the sovereign self, source, you, and whatever man-made is underneath that, is the viewing, the self. And the self being here has the opportunity through this process to unravel and reveal and see who you are. But when you can see it from this position here, you become the decision maker of how you are going to play it, because you become less attached to the avatar and more to the overview of how you see it. And then it becomes real. Rather than feeling a pawn on the game and you feel like a pawn, like that's real. No. You can flip in and out, but hopefully you'll end up in the seeing of my board. And look, we have amazing things that come our way that end up on the board that allows us to exercise and to see even more clearly who we are with the actions that we take. Last week I spoke to you of somebody who was abused and saw that it was not their act. And when we can see that we act, they act, we can be in charge of our act. You know, an act of parliament, it's an act. It's an amazing word, act. but we have the privilege to come onto this board and act and have that experience of who you are to the best of your capacity in how you see it. So this actually showed up in literally being able to see it. So the beingness, being here, the avatar. And what was wonderful is that the session literally went to an over self with this process of, if you could see me the way I see you, and link more into the best of yourself. Because unless you can see the best of yourself and the best action or choice you can take from here, you're kind of stuck. It's not fun. But when you can see of whatever comes your way, but you can see who you are, it's untouchable. It is untouchable. So what flowed from that, it had a beautiful flow this weekend. A being who's lived an extraordinary life in many ways that many would not be able to do, because, you know, to be independent, to be an artist, to live in that way and not have money, house, whatever it is, rule you in a way that most people find attachments to. It's a rare life, but I think more and more are starting to understand what that is. But as I was saying earlier on, this vast element showed up this weekend, and the vastness in this energy, being in a menopausal phase and feeling totally depleted, it was like, what is this? What is this? And it showed that the vastness of her being, and we can't see the vastness of our being and how that plays out at times, but the vastness here, excuse the ringing, the vastness of this was a very deep sense of ability to chill. It's like the connection to all that is was incredibly in chill. The mind cannot understand the depth of this. So the mind has spent its life trying to maintain that sense of chill, maintaining, how do I keep that peace? How do I stay in that space? When the mind didn't have to do anything. The mind attempting to be the vastness of that had burnt the energy out. And then to see that returning to the truth of that, and to go into action in your life, waiting for that moment to find the wanting to. If you sit still enough, at some point you want to move, and waiting for that to arrive so that the energy is from within rather than trying to produce it from without. That moved to another vast energy, which was a delight to do this session. This young boy, who I've seen for many years, in fact, I met him in the womb, and he's been a fair little shit. And there were times I worried about him, thinking, nothing seems to hit home, or what's he going to be like when he's 16? And we see what happens out there, what the stuff kids get up to. So anyway, he's done a great big turnaround. Does all his jobs in the morning, even goes to his father saying, can I do anything else? Like this vast turnaround. He's reading books, his teachers are happy with him, and especially his enthusiasm and his attitude. And what showed up was in this new state of presence that he is in, this being has a history that has put others off. And he was very concerned about his sibling. And I know the two of them came into this world to play. They're here to play. It's like we're here to play. And I'm so glad the young beings who are coming are here to play. They get its play. He was showing elements of this energy that was starting to herniate, I would call it, herniate out of him. And we found that this herniation was about forgiveness. And when that was explored further, he actually came into this world with in an ocean of forgiveness, to the extent that forgiveness isn't even a word that exists because the forgiveness is so total. So when you now read that previous behaviour, there was nothing wrong with it because there was nothing to forgive. But other beings playing on their board may not have that as a skill. We all have our own boards that we play on. And if you play the board of there's nothing to forgive and I can do whatever I like, because because I can, others may interpret that as, I don't like how you play on your board. One of my saying is, I cannot have an attitude or an opinion if I can't let you have an attitude or an opinion. So that's the case here. So what happened is there's this herniation energy in his spirit of forgiveness had an ocean behind it because his whole being had an ocean. He was swimming in an ocean of forgiveness. So the dialogue there really needed to be, look, this has been years of that behaviour that you feel you don't need forgiveness for, and there's a truth in that. But others can have their reaction to that. They can act in reference to that with their board, and they can choose to like you or not like you. We don't have to play with everyone on the board. We can go, I'll play with these ones on the board, not the others. I feel more aligned to that. So it was interesting because his spirit was very much, and in the reverse really, it would show up on this side for you. The spirit here actually said, you live in this ocean of forgiveness. Don't let how others feel about you, especially the sibling in this case, but it really is others. Don't let that impinge and destroy your ocean of forgiveness. And you've been a little shit for years. You can at least give the others a few years to catch up. So this ocean of chill, an ocean of forgiveness, these things are unseen, but they play out in vast ways of behaviour that we do not understand. We just feel it can really disturb deeply, burn us out, or not be seen by others because it's not even seen by ourselves. and it can play out in vast ways. So being able to see it, reveal it, and to then, it's all in the seeing, we can then feel ourselves in the world and see others. So the weekend ended in a process of not being able to forgive, because in the younger years, the parental message was full of blame, and it will never be forgotten. And if anything ever happened, all the ones and all the history of the previous, what cannot be forgiven and what was wrong, had layered to such an extent that the spirit and the mind ended up in a loop, when in fact the being is extraordinary in life. But it kept hitting a wall, and much suffering in hitting that wall. And in being able to see that it can't be forgiven, that ended up in a larger loop in life where there was not going forward, because every little bit was seen that wasn't quite 100%, was not able to be forgiven. So the question always comes up, what have I done wrong this time? Why didn't this happen? What have I done wrong for that not to happen? When in truth, all those things, you can't understand why they're not available for this being. So being able to eliminate the not forgiving, the doors open to the brightness to come through, to then continue living. It's all in the seeing. And the messages can be laid down very early. A friend was sharing with me this morning how her grandson had decided he didn't want to do something. No, I don't want to do that. And it was left with him. And not long after, he wanted to engage again, because it took that time for him to find his desire to do it, that had a sense of sovereignty to it. And it's precious that these kids who can be problematic, or we don't understand when they're young, given the room and the space to find their own sense of how they want to play it, to some extent is to be fostered. And it takes a lot of patience and a lot of not getting frustrated to foster that in the young kids that are coming along now. Because we don't want to kill that in them, we don't want to squash it in them. And in the past, there were always parents who fostered that and allowed it. But it's not the general norm, and it takes a lot of patience. So the card that was pulled this week, it was interesting because I pulled it before I started the week, and I'm always interested to see. And sometimes it swaps, the essences swap by the end of the week, and this time it stayed the same, and it was so relevant to each that I saw, which of course is a delight. Awakening. Rousing from the inactivity of the past, or having held yourself back. Now is the time to wake up to what can be achieved and shake yourself into action. Awaken to your potential, awaken to your love, awaken to yourself. It's your board, it's your game in which you can experience what it is that you are and unwrap it. fun. Catch you next week.